Hey guys, welcome back to the Kool-Aid Podcast. Welcome back to another video. On today's video, guys, I want to be looking at some of the quotes from Szczęsny as he gave an exclusive interview to Mundo Deportivo, and he gave some very insightful, I would say, thoughts and feelings in regards to some of the relationships that Barcelona they are having in that goalkeeper position, but especially his mentorship and his role in the team. We've been talking about before on the channel, and how big of a figure, how great Szczęsny is for the development of Joan Garcia and his role in the squad. But we're going to be delving into that a little bit more deeper and as well looking at some of the most recent quotes. But before I get started on the video, guys, make sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms. Everything's posted down below in the description. Go over there and check me out. That way you guys stay up to date with everything that I do on the channel. And as well, the link to become a member is also posted down below. But as always, guys, let's get started with the video. All right, guys, let's get started with the video and let's look at the words from Szczęsny in that interview to Mundo Deportivo. And I was reading these quotes before, I started recording and everything, and I absolutely loved, some of the words, the energy, and the vibes that Szczęsny was transmitting, because he was talking about Joan Garcia in such glowing light, and we're gonna be talking about that. But first, his first quote was in regard to the El Clásico, and he says, "I don't know. I just hope people don't have to see me play, because that would mean Joan has recovered quickly. I know my role this season. My biggest success will be for Joan Garcia to have a great year. There's no rivalry between us. I just want to help him in the best way possible. That doesn't mean I'm lazy or don't want to play. I love playing, but I truly want him back soon." And he continues on. He talks about a little bit deeper. He talks about Joan Garcia's potential, and he says, "He has almost everything. I don't want to praise him too much because there's still work ahead, but physically he's already among the world's best. Now it's about mental consistency, staying sharp every 3 days and performing in 60 matches a season. That's a new challenge for him, but he's smart and calm, which are key qualities for a goalkeeper under pressure." He talks about that relationship and he says, "I'm very happy with what I've achieved in my career. So it's easy for me to help a young goalkeeper starting his journey. When I get my chance, like now with others injured, I give my best. But my main goal this season is to help Joan. At a club like Barça, with all the pressure, the last thing he needs is extra pressure from an experienced goalkeeper competing from behind." And these quotes, guys, I'm gonna put a pause right here because I absolutely loved every single word that was coming out of Szczęsny's mouth in regards to Joan Garcia. He understands his role so well. He's so likable. He he is putting himself in the position to be a mentor, to be a leader for Joan Garcia, but also for the entirety of the Barcelona squad. And when you're looking at the situation that Barcelona in right now, new exciting young goalkeeper who's had a great season with Espanyol, he understands that. He understands that, hey, Joan Garcia, the potential is absurd. He's already among the best goalkeepers in the world, but there's still things that he needs to improve on, and he's not putting himself ahead of the club or Joan Garcia or his priority to play minutes. No, he's prioritizing Barcelona's future, and Joan Garcia's success, because him succeeding means that Barcelona have a great goalkeeper in goal. And I absolutely loved every single word from Szczęsny, and this is exactly why these words right here. Szczęsny's understanding and his wisdom is why Barcelona and Hansi Flick, they wanted him into the team, to pass on that wisdom, to keep that that calm and focused energy, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Szczęsny, he continues to talk on about Joan Garcia, and guys, I'm being serious. Szczęsny, most of the quotes that were coming up from him were in regards to Joan Garcia. He said, "Physically, I can't teach him much. He's a better keeper than me. What I can give him is experience. That's why the club renewed me, to help him develop. I just want to pass on what I've learned." And he says, hey, this is the same thing that was done to me when Buffon was mentoring me. He says, "A bit, yes. After experiencing what it meant to have someone like Buffon guide me, I feel it's my duty to do the same for Joan. Maybe he won't learn as much as me as he did from Gigi, but the process is quite similar. He says, I learned a lot from them, both Buffon and Peter Cech. If you're smart, you pick small details from the best. You try what works for you and discard what doesn't. You can't be Buffon or Cech. You must find your own style. That's what I did, and now younger players can learn from me the same way. And I absolutely love this energy. I'm so happy that Szczęsny is in goal, and I'm not, even though, for example, when we talk about some of his performances and some of the criticism that's going his way, I don't understand it. Szczęsny came into Barcelona first. Szczęsny did Barcelona a favor by coming out of retirement. Simple as that. Ter Stegen got injured. Barcelona needed a keeper. Barcelona went out, signed Szczęsny, who was in retirement. So it's not like this is a player who, is fighting, is just looking for Barcelona or is making noise, turmoil. No, none of that. Zero nonsense, zero drama. He says, hey, Barcelona, let me do you a favor. We play on the entirety of the season. We go on a crazy, unbeaten streak. We win titles. Szczęsny and Barcelona, they sit down after what was a successful, I would say, 6-month period. They said, hey, we want to renew you. We want you to stay here and, be a mentor to Joan Garcia. And he says, you know what? I'm perfectly happy with that. Why is criticism going his way? Szczęsny understands his role right here. He says, hey, the player who should be starting ahead and, the starting keeper is Joan Garcia. This is why I don't understand, some of the criticism that goes to Szczęsny, for example, when Barcelona, they can see some of those goals against Sevilla. Why are you criticizing Szczęsny? Szczęsny, he's not going to be here for long. His whole purpose is to help Joan Garcia, who is currently out injured. Simple as that. What do you want to do? Play a La Masia Academy goalkeeper in goal? Come on. But continuing on, Szczęsny, he also gives his insight in regards to the Ter Stegen situation, which I really want to dive into this. He says, it's not easy. I was in the same situation at Juventus and even retired because of it. I wouldn't advise that for Marc. He still has so much to offer. The club decided to bring in Joan Garcia, a world-class talent for the next 15 years. It must be frustrating for Marc after being such a key player, but he's smart and understands. It's a decision for the club's future, not just the present. We talked a lot this summer, and he gets it. And so here's my understanding. Szczęsny, a veteran of football, a great for the last 10, 15 years. He's, a player who, started ahead of Gigi Buffon, who started ahead of Alisson, who started ahead of, Peter Cech. He just gave Ter Stegen advice that's invaluable. Ter Stegen, you understand why Barcelona brought in Joan Garcia. Number one, Joan Garcia is a bet for the future. And his level right now is better than yours. It's a no nonsense move. Why are you making such a fuss? Why didn't you leave in the summer if you understand that? And so, when you look at the situation, Ter Stegen, when he comes back from his injury, he's going to have to relook at things because you're not going to have a place in the squad. Simple as that. You're just not going to have a place. Szczęsny, he continues on to talk about Ter Stegen, and he says, we have a great relationship. It was understandable that the coach didn't want to change things when the team was winning. We won 3 trophies. That matters most. I never saw Marc frustrated. Maybe he was, but he never showed it. And so right there, Szczęsny saying, hey, you know what? Maybe there's some conflicting reports and words for what the media was saying. But then again, Ter Stegen, you understand the situation at Barcelona. The exit door is right there. I'm not a fan of him. I've wanted him out for years, but to many Barcelona fans, which I don't understand, they view you as a club legend. Why tarnish your reputation even more? Leave with your head held high. Say, hey, you know what, Barcelona, I completely understand the situation you're in. You brought in an experienced young goalkeeper. Let me pave the way for Barcelona to have success with him. No, what you want to do, you want to double down. You want to make things harder. You want to make things harder for the registration. You says, hey, you know what, I can be better than them, which I understand that ambition, but at the same time, you have to realize that's just not the case. And those words from Szczęsny were really amazing. Gave some insight in regards to the relationship between him and Joan Garcia, but also his relationship with Ter Stegen. But that's not where it ends, guys. Szczęsny, he had a really detailed and long interview. He talked about the recent defeats. He said, last season I played 30 matches and only lost 2. This year I've played 3 and already lost 2. He laughs. It's not the best moment for us. Against PSG, we actually played well, but they're a great team and will fight for every title this year. Against Sevilla, though, we played very poorly. It was a terrible first half. It's concerning, but we must stay calm and focused. That's where I want to highlight things. Yes, it was a terrible first half. It was a terrible performance. It was a bad week. But the thing is, we have to understand and say, hey, there's work to be done. But let's stay calm and focused. Let's not throw our toys out of the pram. Let's not be too reactionary. Let's have faith in this team. Let's have faith in Hansi Flick. Guys, Barcelona were in an absolute mess, and Hansi Flick worked miracles. Why lose the faith? Szczęsny continues on, talks about the recent defeats. He says they were two completely different games. PSG were better than us, more precise, fresher, and tactically solid. We have to accept that. But against Sevilla, we simply didn't give 100%. That's worrying. In football, if you're not fully focused, you can get punished. We have to do much better, recognizing that there's things to work on. He talks about Hansi Flick's message after the defeats. And he says, Flick wasn't happy, of course. When you're Barca's coach and you lose 2 matches in 3 days, it's far from ideal. But his message was clear. When you lose, it's time to get back to work, give our best, and compete for titles just like last season. Once again, Szczęsny recognizing what's needed to be done. And I'm just loving every single bit of this because he's just hitting every nail on the head. He talks about, the focus needed in the squad. And he says, if we want to repeat or improve last season, we must give 100% every match. The squad understands that. We have to work, recover, and relax mentally. Szczęsny, he talks about the tactical improvements needed. And he says, last season, there were things we didn't do perfectly and must improve. When we play with a high defensive line, we must keep control of the ball. Otherwise, it's risky. Losing possession leaves us exposed. The solution isn't changing tactics, but controlling the game better. Defenders can't sprint 50 meters backwards every time. It drains energy. We must build on last year's work and make it better. Right there, Szczęsny, he isn't saying, F the high line, like so many people are saying, the high line isn't working, the high line is exposed. He's saying, no, the thing that must need to be improved on is how Barcelona control the matches, or how Barcelona do with the ball, how we are shaped without it. That is what's needed to be improved on. And we talked about before on the channel. Hansi Flick, he talks about Hansi Flick's ego comment after the game against Rayo, and he says after the draw against Rayo, Flick said that ego kills success. I think he was right. Just because we won 3 trophies last season and played beautiful football doesn't mean it'll be easy this year. It will be harder. You have to prove yourself over and over again. That's what makes great champions. Look at Robert Lewandowski. 16 years, 14 titles. It's about humility, hard work, and consistency. Job isn't done, and far from it. Barcelona, this team have so much left to do before you can, even think about being at that level. Yes, Barcelona were absolutely, fantastic last season. What did we win? We only won a domestic treble. That was it. We haven't won a 3-peat like Real Madrid. We haven't won 9 out of 11 La Liga titles like how the Barcelona team did. We haven't won a treble winning the Champions League. We haven't won, multiple, trophies in multiple seasons. That's just not the case. Barcelona, they should be feeling the hunger to go out and play with such high intensity, and then that's what Szczęsny is touching upon the most. Szczęsny continues on. He talks about the rotations in the defensive line. And he says, it doesn't affect me much as a keeper who plays in defense. I adapt to whoever plays. Having different types of central defenders is actually an advantage. Some are better on the ball, others are more physical or faster. It gives us options depending on the match. I completely agree. Not every single center back is suited for every single game. We've seen them with Araujo. But what is needed to be done is, Barcelona, they have to figure out our center back, starting partnership. That is needed to be done. Szczęsny continues on. He talks about Barcelona's high line, and he says, we showed the last season what our system can offer. Yes, it's risky, but when we play at our best, few teams can match us. The system isn't the problem. How we play within it is. Against Rayo and Sevilla, we didn't apply it well, and we paid the price. That's 100% true. Barcelona not at it. And when you're not at it, you suffer. Szczęsny, he talks about this year and this experience so far at Barcelona. And this is, it's been a wonderful experience. I didn't plan to stay longer than 9 months, but I fell in love with the place. My family is happy. I enjoy football in a new way, and the young energy of the team motivates me. That's why I renewed my contract. Winning 3 trophies helps too. And guys, I don't know anyone who can criticize or just not like Szczęsny because, he understands his role. He understands, his mentorship. He understands so much of what he should be doing at the club. And his energy is just, it's infectious. It's absolutely infectious. Szczęsny talks about, that secondary role he has in the team. And it says, your preparations doesn't change whether you're first or second choice. You prepare for every game. Of course, you might not play, but anything can happen. A red card, an injury, you must always be ready. My mindset doesn't change. When he's called upon, he's ready to perform. Szczęsny talks about Lamine Yamal, and he says, Lamine should just enjoy the game. That's what matters most. At 18, you think differently. If he stays passionate and professional, he can be the best player in the world. He'll make mistakes, as we all did at that age, but that's part of growing up. He doesn't need someone constantly telling him what to do. He's human before he's a footballer. And that's why you want to have that experience there, just to guide, some of the players who are in that Barcelona team. And, in regards to the last quote I want to talk about in regards to Szczęsny is regards to Robert Lewandowski, because he had glowing words for him. Earlier we talked about, him being, such a consistent world-class striker. Szczęsny, he talks about his future, and he says, for players over 35, it's year by year. Robert still has goals in him and remains vital for Barca. We'll see how he feels physically and mentally, but I never doubt him. He's proved people wrong many times. Even if some goals come from the bench, he'll keep scoring. His obsession is goals. He'll help the team however he can. In regards to Robert Lewandowski, that's going to be his role, scoring as many goals as he possibly can. But the thing is, Barcelona and Hansi Flick, they're going to be a little bit more choosy. They're going to be a little bit more, I would say, cautious in the games that they do play Robert Lewandowski, because we have to remember, he is, a veteran. He is an experienced player who's up there in age and isn't going to be able to give 100% every single one of the matches. Him starting for sure in the big games. In the big games, he's the striker that I am going to be starting, but it's making sure that he's there at 100%. And that's what we want to get to and work on. But guys, that was it for the Barcelona news of the day. I absolutely loved that interview from Szczęsny. I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. What do you guys make of his quotes? Because he gives so much insight in what is going on right now in that goalkeeper position, and in the energy and the sensations and what needs to be done to this Barcelona team in order to achieve those goals that we all want to have. But guys, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace out, guys.